In this lesson, we will fine-tune the aircraft's animation. So all we need to do is work on one more polish pass, just so things look a bit smoother. So let's get started by working on the easiest task first. That's going to be the startup of the aircraft's engine. Let's go ahead and select our main animation control. As we scrub through, you can see that our fans are already spinning, the antennas as well, so let's go ahead and fix that so this doesn't happen until the time we'd like the engine to start. And then we could have it start around frame 70. So with our main control selected, we'll go to our user data. And then from there, we're going to go ahead and hold down control just to record a keyframe in our speed channel and the spin channel. Alright, so now we can go ahead and have them turn off a few frames before, let's say on frame 20. So on frame 20, let's go ahead and right click on our spin parameter to set it to 0. And we'll do the same thing for our speed parameter. So now, before frame 20, there is no movement. And then they'll start to pick up speed. Let's play this back. Great. Alright, so the next step then is to animate this control and its bank axis just so there's a little bit more rotation as it starts to lift off. Right now it's just moving straight up and it's very unconvincing. So let's go to our rotate tool. Let's go ahead and make sure we time this just right. So the ship starts to take off around frame 137. We'll go ahead and save a keyframe here. I would like to point out that this control object right now has keyframe selections tied to it, meaning that we won't be able to animate in any other parameter save for what has been highlighted by keyframe selection. So if you've skipped over the rigging section, do take a look at that section to learn more about keyframe selections because they're really neat and they help us to animate with a very clean workflow so we don't have any extra keys we don't need. We also cover keyframe selections in our Introduction to Animation series. But let's say as the ship starts to move up, we can go ahead and have it start to tilt over to the right. So let's go ahead and rotate it down in the bank axis just slightly. And that happened on 166, and now we can have it move in the opposite direction. Just looking at the timing here. Let's say on about frame 188, we have it move in the opposite direction. So we'll just rotate it over to our left. Great, so now it's starting to look much more like an airship. Now we want to gradually have this stop, so let's go ahead and go to frame 212, and we'll go ahead and have it rotate slightly back to our right. And then we can have the ship straighten out on about frame 241. We'll simply right-click in our bank axis. Beautiful. What we should also do is animate position X offset, so side-to-side movement. Let's go to our Move tool. I'll go back to our animation control. We already have a keyframe on our start frame, which is 137, as the ship starts to rise up. So let's say we go ahead and start to add some offset now. Let's say on about frame 171, we'll go ahead and have the ship move a little bit more to our right, just to offset it from the other channels. Notice, as we start to move in position, rotation is unaffected, which is great because now we're only concerned with what we're animating in and nothing more. So we have the ship slightly moving to our right, and then we could have it move back to our left on around frame 198. Not much at all. And then we could have it straighten up around frame 240. So once on 240, we'll just go there. And we'll go ahead and right-click to zero out the offset we've made. Great, so as the ship starts to lift up, when we hit play, looks very natural. Okay, great. So let's go ahead and start to work on some of our secondary animation. Let's go ahead and work on the landing gear. Let's have that lift up. So going back to our user data, extra controls, we'll start to work with our expand collapse channel. So just taking a look at this, on 137 we should already have a key recorded for our expand channel. So let's say we have the landing gear start to move up a few frames after that. Let's say on about frame 173, we'll just go there and we'll have it collapse mostly in, but not quite all the way there because we want it to really snap into place. So let's go ahead and see how this looks. Starts to move up. And now what we can do is start to really focus on this section. Let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit closer by adjusting our power slider. So it's moved up most of the way, but now we can have it kind of snap in. So here's how we'll do this. We'll just go a few frames, let's say to about 180, and we'll just lift it up just a little bit more, sending it to about 9%. And then just 2 frames after, we can go ahead and right-click to set it to 0 so it snaps in. So here's what we end up with when we hit play. Now it kind of pops into place. Very cool. Let's go ahead and see if we like the timing overall. We'll go ahead and adjust our power slider, scrub back in time, and hit play. Beautiful. Now one thing I'd like to do is delay the timing just a little bit more of the landing gear. I really like the motion, but I think it's happening a bit too soon. So in order for the audience not to lose this action, again, we'll delay the timing. We'll right click and choose Show F Curves. And just taking a look at things, may need to make sure that the right object here is selected. I'll go ahead and grab our animation control, and if it helps, you could also go to the track directly by simply clicking on the parameter, right-clicking and choosing Animation, Show F Curves. Alright, so that helps us to get right to where we need to. And all we'll do here is go ahead and highlight all of our keys and just delay their timing just a little bit more. So let's hold down Shift and start to drag this down so that the first key is on about frame 152. Alright, let's see how this looks. We'll hit play. Starts to take off, and now the landing gear comes up and pops in. Very nice. Okay, great. So now we could start to animate the wing, offsets in it. I'll go ahead and select the wing control and move over to coordinates. Here you can see that we have a keyframe selection tied to just the pitch axis, so no other channel then can receive animation. I'll go ahead and press the R key so we can go to our rotate manipulator. And let's go ahead and really take a look at this animation to see how we should animate this. I'd say that we can have the wings start to rotate before the ship starts to take off, just so it looks as if the engines have just started and the pilot is trying to get comfortable with the flight controls. So what we'll do here is on about frame 42, we can have the animation begin. We'll go ahead and record a keyframe. And then when the engines start up, let's say a few frames after on about frame 63, we can go ahead and rotate the wing down slightly. Not much, but just enough where the audience can see what's happening. A few frames after that, just to smooth out the motion a bit, we can go ahead and have it rotate in the opposite direction. Great. Now the ship is about to rise, so what we'll do is have the wing move up a little bit more on about frame 129, just before the ship starts to rise up, and then as it starts to, we can have it rotate down on about frame 170. We're using this much spacing so that the motion looks smooth. Alright, so now as the airship starts to balance in the air, we can go ahead and have it rotate down just slightly, just a few frames after. Let's say on 204, we'll go ahead and rotate it down. And then as it starts to take off, here's where we're going to want it to rotate up. So the wind is hitting it and it's really starting to have the ship move forward. And I might even exaggerate that a little bit more. So on 238, I'll go ahead and rotate the blade down just a little bit more, just to exaggerate it. Not too high, because of course that will cause the ship to perhaps crash. So we're just having fun with this, but at the same time we want it to look realistic. Let's play this back. Beautiful. All right, great. So that's looking really exciting. Now let's go ahead and animate the fans here, just so that they have a bit of motion too. And then if you'd like, you can always add movement to the pod. But let's go ahead and work with our copy paste tools to speed up the time it takes to animate our fans. So we'll just go ahead and work on just one of our tracks. Let's say the right swivel. So as the engine starts to kick in, let's say on frame 20 we have this action start. We'll go to our right swivel, hold down Control and left click. Now as the wing starts to rotate down, we can have the fin rotate up just slightly. Great. And if you notice, we can't see those keyframes. Well, all we need to do is go ahead and right click and choose Show F Curves to load the keyframes in. And now we can keep track of what we're animating. So as the wing starts to move back, we can have the fin balance out by rotating it down. We can do so on about frame 113, so we'll just go ahead and just rotate it down slightly here. Now you can see when we get to 137, it starts to move back up because we've already saved this pose here earlier on. So let's go ahead and just smooth this keyframe out on 137. We'll just drag it down to about 160 just to smooth out the action. And now as the airship starts to rise up and it starts to come forward, what we'll need to do is have it start to point in the direction it would need to for the ship to naturally take off in that direction. So let's say on frame 193, we'll go there, we'll go back to our main animation control, and we're just about finished. We'll just go there and we'll have the fan first start to point upward, but forward just slightly. And now as it starts to really move forward, we'll want that to be pushed back. So we'll go ahead and rotate it so that it's pointed forward just a little bit more. Great. Okay, so once we have finished the animation here, remember we can simply go ahead and copy this track. Just right click and choose Animation, Copy Track. And now let's go to our left swivel and paste the track. And now just to make sure that things are offset so we don't get any twinning, so things don't happen at the same speed, same time, what we'll do is go back to the left swivel function curve. Let's choose Show F Curves and go ahead and open up our timeline. And all we'll do is go ahead and take all of our keys and delay them just 4 frames. So let's hold down Shift and just go ahead and drag them forward just 4 frames or so. All right, so now you'll see that the timing is a bit offset so that things aren't happening again with the same speed. And because of that, this looks much more convincing. Great. All right, so we have finished polishing our airship. In the next lesson, we could start to animate the fueling line.